Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Hey y'all, we're back for another very important episode of Civics for the Culture. All right, this episode and next, I want to give us a little history lesson about our democracy and its origins, but also its evolution over the past 200 plus years. So welcome to part one. Progress and change seems to be hella slow in our country when it comes to righting wrongs and making the playing field fair. And to be honest, I think we're all feeling a little disillusioned with this whole politics thing. But when it comes down to it, our democracy, voting, that is the best way that we can make change that actually benefits our lives. So let me tell y'all why our democracy can and has been great, and also how it's still kind of shitty. The attempts governors and state legislatures are making to pass anti-voter bills ain't new. And the long history of democracy in this country is just a combination of progress, but also setbacks. When you think about our country's founding back in 1776, I told y'all this was gonna be a history lesson, America was celebrated as the land of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But that shit wasn't real. Slavery existed, period. And our enslaved ancestors were not allowed to vote. Back then, only white men who owned land could vote. It's giving embarrassing. Now, let's fast forward about a century later, after the Civil War. Congress passed the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, which made it possible for only black men to vote. Yup, still ain't hitting. And if we fast forward to 1877, during the Jim Crow era, which wasn't that long ago, y'all, lots of states enacted suppressive laws meant to prevent black men from voting. Laws like poll taxes and literacy tests, even grandfather clauses that slowed down black Americans from voting or getting registered. That sounds familiar, right? White men were and are still upset that they are no longer the only ones with power. Translation, voting is power. In 1920, almost 50 years after black men were granted the right to vote, America finally gave women the right to vote. And later, 4 years later actually, in 1924, the country finally made indigenous people citizens in their own damn country and granted them the right to vote. Kinda. Still, again, embarrassing. And we're still not a democracy. So once voting was extended to all adults, Jim Crow era discrimination continued to prevent many folks from voting that looked just like you and me, especially in the South. It wasn't until the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act that our country finally outlawed Jim Crow era suppressive tactics to put an end to voting discrimination. So, in 1965, our country kind of started living up to its promise, where citizens truly had the right and access to the ballot box. Oh, and in 1971, the 26th Amendment to the Constitution lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. Not so embarrassing, finally. The moral of the story, though, is our democracy isn't something we can passively take for granted. We literally have to fight for it. Voting rights could not have been extended to more people if it hadn't been for our OGs who gave their blood, sweat, and tears for our country to live up to its ideals. Our democracy is not bulletproof, y'all. The most important thing you can do this year is vote in the midterm elections. Head over to peachvote.com if you live in Georgia, or vote.org if you don't, and check your voter registration. And if you're new to this, make sure you register to vote. If we elect leaders who share our values, who want to fight for our democracy as much as we do, we can finally start seeing progress in spaces that we care about, like healthcare or climate change or racial justice, or oh yeah, reproductive justice. But if we don't, if we stay silent, we cede our power to those that only want to further strip it away. And that's bullshit. So are you ready?